Ladies and gentlemen, respected teachers, and my dear friends, there is a question that has haunted philosophers, troubled scientists, inspired prophets, and kept ordinary dreamers awake in the darkness of the night. It is perhaps the most profound question a human mind can ask. How does something come from nothing? How does a seed buried beneath cold, dead earth eventually crack open and reach for the sky? How does a person with empty hands, an empty bank account, and sometimes even an empty heart manage to build a life of meaning, of abundance, of legacy? The journey from nothing to something is not merely a scientific curiosity. It is the story of every single human being who has ever lived, and it is the story of you and me right here, right now, in this very room. Let us begin at the very beginning, not with a textbook or a theory, but with a truth so simple and yet so staggering that most people spend their entire lives walking past it without ever stopping to look it in the face. That truth is this: nothing in its truest sense does not last. Nothing is not a destination. Nothing is a starting point. The universe itself is the greatest testimony to this truth. Scientists tell us that approximately 14 billion years ago, before the first star was born, before the first atom drifted through the void, there was nothing. No light, no sound, no matter, no time. Pure, absolute, perfect nothingness. And then, in a moment so brief, it defies all human comprehension, everything exploded into existence. Galaxies formed, stars ignited, planets cooled. And on one small, unremarkable rock, orbiting one average star in one ordinary galaxy, life began. From nothing, from absolute, silent, empty nothing, came everything that has ever existed or will ever exist. If that is not the most powerful argument for the potential hidden inside nothingness, I do not know what is. But we are not here today to talk only about physics or cosmology. We are here to talk about something far more personal. We are here to talk about the nothing that each of us has faced or will face at some point in our lives. The nothing that comes after failure. The nothing that sits beside you when everyone else has walked away. The nothing you feel in your chest when a dream collapses, when a relationship ends, when you look in the mirror and you honestly cannot recognize the person staring back at you. That kind of nothing, the humankind, is the most difficult nothing of all. And yet, it is also the most fertile ground that exists for the creation of something truly extraordinary. Think for a moment about the people whose stories have moved the world. Think about Abraham Lincoln, who lost his mother as a child, failed in business, lost election after election, suffered from deep depression, and yet rose to become one of the greatest leaders any nation has ever known. Think about J.K. Rowling, who was a single mother, unemployed, surviving on government assistance, who wrote the first chapters of a book about a boy wizard on scraps of paper in a small cafe, rejected by publisher after publisher, until one day the world discovered Harry Potter and nothing was ever the same again. Think about Oprah Winfrey, born into poverty in rural Mississippi, abused, shuffled between relatives, told by early employers that she was unfit for television, and yet she became one of the most influential women in the history of broadcasting. Think about our own great figures from the Muslim world. Think about the Prophet Ibrahim, peace be upon him, cast into fire, exiled from his homeland, stripped of everything, and yet he rebuilt. He persevered. He became the father of nations and the friend of God himself. These are not accidental stories. These are not coincidences. These are testimonies to a single, undeniable truth that nothing is where the most powerful somethings are born. So what is the secret? What is it that separates the person who looks at nothing and sees only emptiness from the person who looks at nothing and sees possibility? I believe there are several answers to that question, and I want to walk through them with you today, not as a list of rules, but as a journey, because that is what this transformation truly is. It is a journey, step by painful, beautiful, terrifying step. The first thing I believe separates those who rise from nothing from those who remain there is the quality of their inner conversation. We spend so much time talking to other people, arguing, explaining, convincing, performing, that we forget the most important conversation we will ever have is the one happening inside our own minds, quietly, constantly, 24 hours a day. When you are sitting in your nothing, what is that voice saying to you? Is it telling you that this is the end, that you are not enough, that the world has moved on without you and there is no use trying to catch up? Or is it saying something different, something quieter, something more stubborn, something that refuses to accept the permanence of this emptiness? The people who go from nothing to something are almost without exception people who have learned to manage that inner voice. Not silence it, you cannot silence it, but manage it, question it, challenge it. Ask it whether what it is saying is a fact or simply a fear wearing the disguise of a fact. That distinction between fact and fear, between what is real and what is merely imagined, is often the entire distance between remaining in nothing and beginning to walk towards something. The second thing I want to talk about is the power of beginning small. We live in a world that is obsessed with grand gestures, with overnight success, with viral moments and instant transformations. We see the finished product and we forget the 10,000 small, invisible, unremarkable steps that preceded it. But the truth is that every great something in human history began with an almost embarrassingly small first step. The greatest trees in the world began as seeds so tiny you could hold 100 of them in your palm. The greatest rivers in the world began as a single drop of water falling on a mountainside. Every dynasty, every empire, every movement, every invention, every work of art that has ever made a human being weep with recognition, all of them began with a single, small, tentative, uncertain beginning. So if you are standing in your nothing today and you are waiting for permission to begin, waiting until conditions are perfect, waiting until you have enough money or enough confidence or enough support or enough time, I am here to tell you that permission has already been granted, and it was granted the moment you were born. Begin small, begin imperfectly, begin today. Because nothing becomes something only when motion begins. And even the smallest motion is infinitely more powerful than the most perfectly planned stillness. Now, I want to address something that many speeches about success and transformation tend to skip over because it is uncomfortable. And it is this: the journey from nothing to something is not a straight line. It is not a clean, inspirational arc that moves steadily upward from the bottom left corner of the page to the top right. It is messy. It doubles back on itself. It takes detours through valleys you did not expect and over mountains you never wanted to climb. There will be moments when you have built something, a business, a relationship, a skill, a reputation, and it will fall apart, and you will find yourself back in the nothing again. And the temptation at that moment will be enormous. The temptation to interpret that return to nothing as proof that you were never meant for something, as evidence that you should stop trying, as the universe's final verdict on your worth. I am asking you, with everything I have, to resist that temptation, because that return to nothing is not a verdict, it is a renovation. It is the universe dismantling what was no longer serving you in order to make space for something better, something stronger, something more aligned with who you are truly meant to become. There is a concept in Islamic thought in Arabic called sabr, patience, endurance, persistence in the face of difficulty. It is one of the most mentioned virtues in the Quran, and for good reason. Sabr does not mean passive waiting. It does not mean sitting with folded hands and hoping that things will somehow improve. Sabr means active, engaged, faithful endurance. It means continuing to plant even when the ground is hard. It means continuing to pray even when the sky seems silent. It means continuing to work even when the results have not yet arrived. And it is coupled always in Scripture with the promise of reward, not the vague, uncertain reward of maybe things will get better, but the absolute, unshakable promise that those who endure with faith will not be abandoned, will not be wasted, will not be forgotten. That promise is not only a spiritual comfort, it is a psychological anchor. It is what allows a person standing in their deepest nothing to look up, to straighten their back, and to take one more step forward. Let me also say something about the people around you, because no one goes from nothing to something entirely alone, even when it feels that way. Sometimes the people around you will see your potential before you can see it yourself. Sometimes a single sentence from a teacher, a parent, a friend, a stranger on a bus will plant a seed in you that grows for years before it breaks the surface. And sometimes you will have to deliberately seek out the company of people who believe in possibility, who are themselves in the process of building something from nothing, who understand the language of hope and effort and refusal and resilience. That community is not a luxury. It is a necessity. Human beings are not built to journey in isolation. We are built for witness, to be seen in our struggle, to be encouraged in our effort, to be celebrated in our growth. Find your community. Be a part of someone else's. Give what you hope to receive, and you will find that the exchange transforms both of you. And finally, I want to say something about gratitude, not as a platitude, not as a greeting card sentiment, but as a genuine strategic tool in the journey from nothing to something. When you are in your nothing, gratitude can seem like an insult. What is there to be grateful for? But the practice of finding even the smallest thing to acknowledge, a breath, a heartbeat, a sunrise, a glass of water, the fact that you are still here and the story is not yet finished, that practice rewires the brain over time. It shifts attention from what is absent to what is present. It shifts identity from someone who has been empty to someone who still holds something, even if that something is small. And identity ultimately is everything. Because you will never build a something that is larger than the identity you carry inside yourself. You will never create beyond what you believe yourself capable of creating. Gratitude is the quiet daily practice that slowly expands what you believe is possible, which slowly expands what you are willing to attempt, which slowly expands what you are capable of achieving. So let me bring this full circle. From the cosmic nothing that preceded the Big Bang to the personal nothing that precedes every great human story, the pattern is the same. Nothing is not the end. Nothing is the womb. It is dark in there, yes. It is quiet. It is frightening. There is no roadmap and no guarantee, but life is growing in that darkness, pressing against its limits, gathering strength for the moment of emergence. You are not finished. You are not forgotten. You are not beyond the reach of transformation. You are simply, magnificently, terrifyingly, beautifully in the process of becoming. And one day, and I believe with every part of me that this day will come, you will stand somewhere and look back at the nothing you came from, and you will understand, perhaps for the very first time, that it was never empty at all. It was full of everything you were about to be. Thank you.